Hey guys, it's me, Halloween Dan, and today I'm doing a quick video talking about an element of Halloween and my haunt, and I think a lot of people's haunts, that I don't think I've ever really focused on before. I've never put it in the spotlight before. That joke will make more sense when I tell you what this video is actually about in a second. This is an element that when I first started getting into making haunts, I didn't fully appreciate. I didn't really make the best of that I could have done. But now it's something I fully appreciate, and I think that without, this can make or break a haunt. I think it's one of those key integral things that not a lot of people focus on, but it is actually really important. And that is, of course, lighting. So let's talk about this. When I first started doing displays, a lot of everything I had was for inside. They were inside graded lights, disco lights really, party lights, some black lights as well. I never really did anything on the outside of my house. And then when I started getting more and more into putting out a display outside, lighting was something that progressed with me. It didn't start off very well. It kind of grew as my haunt grew. Initially, I didn't think lighting was that important because I live on a main road. There's great big street lights right outside my house that illuminate my whole front garden. So I kind of thought, what's the point? It doesn't really bring anything. My garden's so well lit anyway. What's it gonna do? But everyone knows that street lights, they're great for giving you just enough light to walk down a street and not feel like you're completely surrounded by the darkness. But actually, they don't produce very good light. They produce really strange shadows, really strange lighting that doesn't really give anything a particularly good look. Particularly when you're trying to highlight a prop or a tombstone or something, it doesn't really work. It kind of looks a bit bad. So probably about 2018, I started to experiment with lighting. Now my first sort of foray into this was battery operated stuff. We don't have any mains sockets on the front of our house. So everything I tried was either solar powered or run off a battery. Now there are lots of options. Solar powered doesn't work that well for me personally because our front garden's north facing, which means that it, especially at this time of year, doesn't get huge amounts of daylight to charge up those batteries. So I had to discount solar quite early on in this whole thing. But battery operated, some of these things are not too bad. And my personal favourites, I got them back in 2018, look like this. Mine are called RGB LED submersible lights, so they're fully waterproof. They look like a little puck, and they've got about 10 LEDs on them. And what's really cool about these, they come with a remote and they're colour changing. So you can have a myriad of different colours. It will flicker through different colours. You can pick a specific colour, nice purple, and they're actually quite bright. They're actually not too bad of a light at all. Yes, they're battery operated, so at some point the battery will run out, and you do have to keep an eye on that. But for lighting up an individual thing, an individual prop, a tombstone, whatever it might be, these things are so cool. I think when I bought them, these were about £12 for a pack of 4, and they came with a little remote. You will find them on Amazon. There's loads and loads and loads of different ones. This one says it's weatherproof. Well, it says it's submersible, so it says it's waterproof, fully waterproof. I'm not so sure about that, but they definitely don't mind being out in all elements. And I've used these now for, could be good 6 years or so. And they're actually really good. I even had a series of them at one point lighting up the inside of my porch, which added a really cool effect. So yeah, I think for just, especially if getting power to places is an issue and you just want to add an accent of light to a particular prop or tombstone or whatever it might be, these are really good. Soon after that though, I wanted to go a little bit bigger. Our house is white, it's white rendered. So the good thing about white render is if you project a light up onto it, that it transforms the house from white to whatever colour you want. And because of the streetlights kind of bleaching everything out, I wanted to give my house a kind of a creepier look. So I wanted to make the house a feature of the horn in its own right. And to do that, I got some of these. These are LED colour changing floodlights. The ones I went for initially were 20 watt. I bought 2 of them. I think at the time they were about £24 for 2, so a bit of a bargain. They're IP66 rated, which means they're fully waterproof, and I just literally placed them on my lawn at the front of our house, aimed up at the side of our house, and they are really, even though it's only 20 watts, these things are incredibly bright and add just a layer of accent colour. And like with the little puck light that I just showed you, these two run off a remote control and colour change. So you switch them on, you can have blue, red, green's my personal favourite, and a whole series of other cool colours, whatever colour, every colour of the rainbow if you so wish. But personally, I always go for green. I think it just says real Halloween, green Halloween. It's super cool, super easy to set up. Like I say, I just literally sit these on my lawn, aimed up at my house. I've used them now for many, many years, and they just give a really cool layer of light across the entire horn. They do illuminate my props too, but I always like to give them a sort of secondary light for my props. But as a sort of general flood of light, these are super cool. I bought a new one for this year, slightly more powerful. This one's a 40 watt version, slightly bigger, slightly more powerful, to light up the other side of my house, which is actually ironically the darker side, so it should light it up pretty well. I've not decided on the colour, whether I'm still going to stick with green or go with a different colour on that side of the house. Can't make my mind up, but these are really cool, easy to use, they don't use vast amounts of power, and they really do add a super cool effect to your house. I'll just mention as well, I also use these are battery operated strobe lights. They are not the most powerful things in the world, they definitely aren't, but they do just add that layer of flickering light that's kind of cool. Again, I sometimes put these inside my porch, so it gives this sort of flickering look around the door. They also are really cool aimed up at things. They give this sort of flickering light up against something that maybe you want to make look a little bit spooky. And again, because they're battery operated, you don't have to have wires trailing all over the place. They just add a little bit of accent light, which I kind of like. Then we have a light that I bought for a very specific purpose. But then later on, it lost that purpose, but I still wanted to use it in my horn. And it is another kind of floodlight, but this little mini floodlight is a black light. So it's a black light floodlight. I originally bought this because it's a weatherproof one. So again, it's IP66 rated. And I mounted it inside my spitting skeleton prop that I made, where he's sort of spitting luminous fluid out of his mouth. And this obviously was the light that made it look luminous. Really, really cool effect, but I decided against doing it last year, but I still had the light and wanted to use it. So what I did was I mounted it inside one of my pillars that I built by the front entrance of my horn and had it shining up against the porch of my light. And I have to say, even though that's not really what it was designated for, adding this layer, this secondary layer of purple light to the horn was really, really cool. It's not the brightest thing in the world, but as you can see, it still has that really cool fluorescent effect on things, and it adds this really cool light that nothing else kind of does. You can have purple lights, I've got my floodlights that add a purple light, but it's not quite the same as UV, and it really is a really cool effect it gives. It kind of is really creepy, very, very fluorescent looking, and I really like the effect it gives. It lit up my porch brilliantly and made it look really kind of three-dimensional. I don't know what it was, it really brought the greens and all the other hues of light together. And I think this was about £15 on Amazon, so another really cool little cheap light. And then we've got the lights that are more specific to my horn. These are some of my favourite lights that I own. They're nothing people haven't seen before. They are the flicker flame effect lights. There's a little fan inside there, then an LED light lighting it up red, and then you have this tuft of fabric that's blowing in the fan. Really cool effect though. Really simple, really cool. I stand these on my pillars out at the front of my horn, and everyone who comes past always says, I love the flame lights, aren't they really cool? These can be used in a myriad of different ways. They can be used, say you have a witch's part of your horn and you like to maybe have a cauldron effect. These would look really good under a cauldron. They'd be really good if, like with my dragon, adding a bit of extra flame. The good thing about these is there's loads of different ones too. There are ones with longer bits of fabric, stronger fans, brighter LEDs. For what I wanted, I only needed a relatively cheap, quite not overly powerful or expensive one. I think at the time, it was a pack of 2 for about £20, I want to say. Not overly expensive, really cool effect. And the last light I wanted to talk about that I use in my horn is this. This is a pretty standard light in the horn community now, but it was a pretty new thing to me. This is a fire and ice light. Now, I bought it for a very specific purpose. I had this projecting up against my pirate ship to create a water effect, a rippling water effect. But just like all the other lights I've mentioned, these are colour changing. You can have these set to a myriad of different colours. Now, I've actually lost the remote, so I can't set a different colour at the minute. I will find the remote though, but as you can see, I'll project it onto the wall there. It's a really cool sort of rippling effect. And when you can change the colour, it's just set on white and green at the minute, believe it or not. But when you can set the colour, you can have it red, you can have it blue, you can have it a myriad of different colours. So it can look like flames if you want it to set it red. Blue is a really good water effect. Actually, this white is not bad for ripples of water, kind of gives the same effect. And it's just a really good thing. I know a lot of people use these in their horns, sometimes projected up at a particular prop, sometimes projected up at a static thing. If you project it up at a static thing, I think it gives that static thing an extra layer of movement that it otherwise wouldn't have. I always see these, you know, people make those ghosts out of chicken wire, and if you project one of these up into the ghost, into the chicken wire ghost, it gives them this ethereal movement that they actually aren't having. That just makes them kind of look like they're moving because it plays with your eyes a little bit, the movement of the light. I think this is really cool. I was tempted to buy another one this year. I haven't done yet, but it might happen. That's just an example of the sort of lights that can be used in a horn. I have lots of different ones. I've got lots of string lights. I've got lots of other smaller battery lamps that I use. Lanterns are a good one in a horn. And of course, there are the projectors that you can buy. I've got a couple of different projectors that project images that move. I don't think I'm going to use mine this year, if I'm honest with you. I've already got enough things plugged in. I don't think I'm going to bother this year. But they are pretty cool, and they do add an extra layer of movement in a horn, which is kind of fun. When it comes to lighting, there are so many different options, and I do believe it's one of those things that makes or breaks a horn. Get the lighting right, and you will really set an awesome tone in your horn. Don't bother, and it can look a little bit lost. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today. This really quick one about lighting. And I will see you in the next one. Keep it spooky. Bye.